The big story at this hour, in a move aimed at cracking down on shell companies, the government has tightened KYC norms. The Corporate Affairs Ministry has now introduced a new form seeking additional details from 12 lakh registered companies. Failure to comply with this will see them incurring penalties and also earn the tag of non-compliant company. Timsy Joypuria is here with the details. Timsy, what are the details that are being sought in this new form?
In a move to weed out shell companies from the system, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has introduced a new mandatory procedure for all companies, or to simply put it, new KYC norms. The ministry has introduced a new e-form, INC 22A, to be filled by every company incorporated on or before 31st December 2017. The new form seeks particulars of the company and particulars of its statutory and cost auditors. Also, interestingly, the new form seeks companies to submit pictures of office building, both exterior and interior, along with digital signatures of minimum of one of its directors with his or her profile picture sitting inside the office premises. The new form also requires to submit professional certification. MCA has also listed out that this form will not be available to companies whose annual filings are pending with the ROC, or those who have been struck off or are in the process of getting struck off from the government records. Also, the companies which are under liquidation or which have been amalgamated or dissolved will not be allowed to file this form. However, for the rest, the government has clearly stated that non-filing of this new e-form by April 25, 2019 will attract a penalty of 10,000 rupees, and the government will also change the status of these companies to active non-compliant, which will be a red flag when the credentials of the company are being verified either by banks or by any other government institution or any other person, basically putting in a sign of caution against the name of your company. Also, non-compliance would mean that the company can be barred from filing various e-forms with the ROC, and the government will also have the right to remove the name of the company from its records, which will in turn become a big negative. Let's see how soon and how many companies comply to these new norms. Back to you.
Well, Timsy, thanks very much for detailing what the new KYC forms issued by the MCA entail. We're now joined by Suhastul Japulkar, Managing Partner at Legacies, and Dinesh Kanabar, the CEO of Dhruva Advisors, to help make sense of this. Mr. Kanabar, let me start by asking you, what do you make of these new KYC norms and the implications?
So it's been for the last 2.5 to 3 years that the government has come up with a variety of measures to plug shell companies. It first began with companies which were having round-tripping, monies going in circular route, etc. Then we had companies which were stuck off because they were not filing any forms. And now we come to a final stage, which is in some sense a self-certification, accompanied, of course, by a professional certificate, to go back and demonstrate to the government that the company is actually actively operating, has people, and creating a record. Well, I was hearing earlier about the ramifications, and one of the important ramifications could be that if there is a red flag, will it also not show a red flag to the tax authorities to look deeper into the accounts of these companies? Because if they are active and they are not compliant, then one has to see what records are they maintaining and whether those records are indeed reliable, or these companies are being used as fronts for many of the promoters.
Right. Suhas, A, the timeline to be able to comply, the 25th of April, and B, the December 2017 timeline which the MCA has put forward in order for companies to be able to adhere to the compliance.
Yeah, I don't think, if one were to look at the form, it's not very difficult to comply with. It's very easy form. In a sense, it asks for some mandatory information and it asks for some discretionary information. The mandatory information obviously is tied in with whether any of the directors have been disqualified under Section 164 or that they don't have DIR 3 KYC norm. So that's going to be a big thing, because all those directors which are disqualified, we all know what happened there, and it went back and forth. So now what gets tagged in here through this active form is that your directors also are not disqualified or that they are not deactivated due to non-filing of DIR3 KYC norms. So that's one big thing which each company will then have to ensure that the disqualified directors are not there. You see, earlier there were lots of these cases pending now before NCLT in terms of disqualifications. Some of the disqualifications were challenged all across. Now, that's one area that has happened. When you talk about the cutoff from December 2017, I think it's fair because post-2017 there is a presumption that most of the disqualified directors were not there when the companies were incorporated post-December 2017. So that cutoff again has a correlation with the disqualification of directors. Now, some of the information that is being sought, like details about your statutory auditor, details about your internal auditor, if internal auditor is there, are matter of providing the names and addresses. I don't think that's very complicated to do. It, in fact,
and also pictures inside the building, outside the building.
Yeah. Now, let's take an example of where there is co-shared working places. I'm sure there are going to be 100 companies there. But if you go on some of the apps that are developed today, they give you this information saying for the same address how many companies are registered. You can make that out through these apps and try to identify whether there are shell companies or there are 100 companies in kind of a 10 by 10 square feet office. So that, I think, is one of the important aspects. Thirdly, I think when the show cause notices are being issued on the companies, which are really sham companies or companies which the promoters have vanished from India, I think this will bring to the forefront all those companies, because out of the 12 lakh active companies which are shown currently, this is like, tagging really the geo details of that company and moving towards legal entity identifier, as if I were to put it that way, which is a role currently taken by CCIL when the international transactions happen. So that is moving towards legal entity identifier KYC now. It's not going to be very difficult.
I'm also being told by our reporter who's been tracking this won't be very difficult, that they've also sought details of latitude and longitude as far as the address is mentioned in as the addresses for these companies are concerned. But Dinesh Kanabar and Suhas Tuljapurkar, many thanks for joining us here to discuss the latest that's coming from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs on cracking down on shell companies. Well, there's a lot more news coming up. The UN Security Council has passed a resolution condemning the terror attack carried out by Pakistan-based terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed. The resolution, which was proposed by India, was backed by all 15 permanent and non-permanent council members, including China. The UN Security Council has passed a resolution condemning the terror attack carried out by Pakistan-based terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed. The resolution, which was proposed by India, was backed by all 15 permanent and non-permanent council members, including China. Parikshit joins us now with more. Parikshit, big victory for India.
Big victory for India, and this comes at a time when India is building a diplomatic campaign against Pakistan using all tools at its disposal. We hear that for the last 1 week, India had been pushing UNSC members to include the name of the Jaish-e-Mohammed and also a reference to Jammu and Kashmir in that UNSC resolution. We believe that this resolution was ready a day after the Pulwama attacks on the 15th of February, but it was delayed by at least a week. And why? Because China had some issues with it. China had brought in some amendments, and because of which this entire procedure was delayed by at least a week. Our sources tell us that China was the only country in the 15-member UNSC Council which tried to delay the move. Pakistan also appealed to the UNSC Secretariat and the UNSC President to oppose any kind of resolution or statement on the Pulwama attacks or any reference to the Jaish-e-Mohammed for that matter. Another setback to Pakistan coming at the Financial Action Task Force, which continued to put Pakistan on the grey list. A reprieve in the sense that they did not get blacklisted as India wanted that to happen, but the FATF did mention that Pakistan is not doing enough to stop the financing of terror groups like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Al-Qaeda and the Lashkar-e-Toiba. So it seems that in the days to come, India will continue building up a campaign both economically and diplomatically against Pakistan.
Thanks very much, Parikshit, for joining us with that. Now, India, meanwhile, has drawn the wrath of the International Olympic Association after Pakistani shooters were denied visas for the World Cup in New Delhi. The IOC has decided to, and I quote, suspend all discussions with India over hosting global sporting events. In a statement, the IOC said, and I quote again, the situation goes against the fundamental principles of the Olympic Charter and the principles of non-discrimination have been violated. With the IOC snapping talks with India, the future of upcoming sporting events in India, like the Hockey Olympic qualifiers this year and the 2021 World Boxing Championship, now uncertain. That's not all. 3 Indian shooters participating in the current World Championships are now at a disadvantage. The participants of the men's 25-meter rapid-fire event will not be able to book their places for the upcoming Olympics. That quota has been withdrawn because Pakistani athletes are not participating. The Cricket World Cup clash between the two nations is also facing uncertainty. The BCCI has put the onus on the government and has written a letter to the ICC calling for an end to ties with nations from where terror emanates. But Pakistan has not been named explicitly.
You see, the point is, the IOC Charter, we are all signatories to it, including India. And the Charter says that there will be non-discrimination against athletes from other countries. How well the government of India or the IOA can convince the IOC remains to be seen. But it is, in my opinion, is going to be extremely difficult.
India today stands banned from hosting any of the international competitions, or forget about hosting, even discussing any international competitions, till such time that the government gives an undertaking that they can host, they will not discriminate between nations. But at this point of time, I think it is a question of country first. I think the quotas can wait for one more championship.
See, I think this is an unprecedented and a very peculiar situation. I mean, it goes without saying everyone concerned with sports has to accept the decision of the IOC, and one can understand the need for IOC to stick to its rules as well. However, having said that, what happened with us was a terrible event, and as a country we stand united and the nation comes first. I sincerely hope that we are able to make the IOC see the reason behind the denial this time. We just have to see the emergence of India in the world of sports and the contribution of India in general, and not isolate and tag India as having political interference in the field of sports.
Well, reactions coming in there to the IOC suspending all talks with India, and of course the possibility of future Olympic events happening in India now uncertain. The Supreme Court has directed the centre and several states to take prompt action to prevent attacks on Kashmiris. The court has also said that police officers who were earlier appointed as nodal officers to deal with incidents of mob lynching would now have the added responsibility of dealing with alleged assault on Kashmiris. The order follows reports of alleged attacks on Kashmiris after the Pulwama terror attack. Prime Minister Modi is all set to launch the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme this Sunday. The Assured Income Support Scheme will be formally launched at a farmers' rally in Gorakhpur in eastern UP. Remember, this region with its 41 Lok Sabha seats is set to play a significant role in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. So far, the government has identified 60 lakh beneficiaries. Sapna joins us now with more. So, Sapna, all set for the 24th of February when the first tranche of 2,000 rupees will hit bank accounts of at least 60 lakh beneficiaries?
Exactly, that's what we are given to understand, that as of date, the identified beneficiaries where the entire three-tier checking has been, the three-tier level checking has been done. Basically, the payout for these numbers is going to be 60 lakh, the number of beneficiaries identified as of date. Max, you may expect this number to go up marginally, but looks doubtful as the launch date is so nearby. So around 60 lakh beneficiaries are expected to get approximately 1,200 crore worth of benefit as far as the PM Kisan Yojana is concerned on 24th Feb. Having said that, a couple of points that we need to keep in mind. If you look at the kind of, obviously it's going to be a nationwide launch, but the number of states which are the lead states, the kind of states which are lead states and the states which are laggards, and a couple of them have not been joined the scheme. If you look at those names, for example, we're given to understand that, out of the beneficiary network, it's basically Uttar Pradesh that has taken the lead because they were already prepared for it. They already had a ready database. They have done, they have announced a loan waiver as well. So keeping that in mind, you'll have huge concentration of beneficiaries, identified targeted beneficiaries from Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Haryana. So these are the states. Of course, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. Telangana already has the Raitulu scheme scheme in place. So these are the states, which are going to take the lead as far as the PM Kisan actual implementation and transfer of money is concerned. The laggard states, of course, are Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Kerala. Some of them are the laggard states, wherein basically they are somewhere in the middle level, not really there in terms of picking up as far as the implementation is concerned. Interestingly enough, West Bengal has not even joined the scheme so far. So I suppose everybody will be waiting to hear further from them. Taking this forward, the pace of identification probably for the beneficiaries as of now is not extremely high. So we are given to understand as of now that probably by March 31, around 12,000 to 13,000 crores worth of the 20,000 crore budget allocation that has been done, that may be used up. Probably there could be some savings, so to speak, though of course that is not what the government intends. But looking at the kind of responses that you get from the state governments, that is how the scheme is going to go forward. So 1,200 crores, 60 lakh beneficiaries on 24th Feb, and by March 31, you expect around 12,000 crores worth of the budget to be used up. I suppose that would lead to a number of beneficiaries of around 5 to 6 crores by the end of the financial year.
Well, the target is 12 crores and the budget allocated is about 20,000 crores for this financial year. Sapna, appreciate you joining us. Watch out for Sunday the 24th. Moving on now, talks between India and the US to resolve tariff tussle have entered an advanced stage. Sources say India may defer tariffs on 29 US products by another 15 days to facilitate smoother negotiations. Rituparna joins us now with more. So Ritu, another deferral, and the hope is that negotiations with the US will move forward.
That's right. In fact, we've been told that they are in the final stages and Commerce Ministry officials are in touch with their counterparts in Washington. That is the USTR, which basically negotiates on behalf of the US government. Commerce Minister Suresh Prabhu, we understand, will be writing to his counterpart Robert Lighthizer regarding this to take this forward as soon as possible. On its part, India is getting ready to postpone the imposition of the retaliatory tariffs on 29 US products by 15 more days. These products, were to be levied with extra duties from March 2nd. But all of this depends upon when elections are announced, because once Election Commission announces the date for general elections, the Model Code of Conduct kicks in, and going by convention, India will not be able to then announce the trade package, and hence, both sides are trying to, ink the deal as soon as possible. From the Indian side, the demand is, of course, to get an exemption on the Indian steel and aluminium products. From US, several issues have been raised, which includes market access, which includes the restrictions on FDI policy on e-commerce, as well as having more flexibility regarding pricing on medical products. So it remains to be seen if India and US are if they can actually ink a deal before the elections get announced. With that, it's back to you.